Hey guys, Michael from Copper vs Glass, and with more and more of us continuing to work from home, it's never been more important for your video calls to look and sound great. So today we're looking at two brand new products from AnkerWork. We've got the S500, which is a really awesome conference speaker, and also the C200, which is a 2K webcam with some really great features. And a massive thank you to Anker for sending over these products for review. So I'm sure most of you probably know that the microphones and also the speakers in your laptop aren't necessarily the best out there, especially if you're going to be using one that's maybe 5 or 6 years old direct from work. For me, I do have an M1 MacBook Pro, so the speakers themselves do sound absolutely incredible, but the microphones, while they're touted to be really good, could do with a little bit of work in regards to the noise reduction, and also if you're trying to use them in a group, it's not necessarily the best option out there, and that's where the S500 comes into play. Now, right away, I do need to let you know that the S500 isn't necessarily the cheapest option out there, coming in at around $219, so that's definitely something to keep in mind when we get onto the build quality and also the sound test a little bit later on in the video. So first up, we have the design, and in general, I think that the S500 has a really nice design to it. It looks really nice on a desk, or if you're going to have it in a boardroom setup, if you are going to be taking it out and about. Now you've got a really big speaker / microphone setup on the top here, which allows for up to 12 people to be involved, but we'll get into more of that in the actual sound test. Overall though, I think the design itself does look really nice, and it definitely follows the trend of what AnkerWork has started to do more recently. Now you've got a multi-function LED strip that goes on the top of the actual device, and this is for certain things, so if you increase or decrease the volume, the blue light is going to move left to right, and also when you're going to be checking the power options in terms of the battery levels by pressing the power button, it's going to actually show you with a bar just how much battery you've got left. Also, if you're doing things like firmware updates or just in general charging the device, you do have multiple lights over and around the actual device itself to let you know exactly what's going on. You've then also got that really nice piano black finish on the top section there as well, and this has some really nice buttons on there. They are capacitive buttons, so all you have to do is touch them, and this allows for certain things like volume up and down and muting phone calls and things. Just get a little bit of quick action for certain things that you may want to be doing when you're on a call. The front of the device is where you're going to find the power button, the pause button, because you can also play and pause music if you're using it as a Bluetooth speaker. You do then also have a connection button, because you can pair two of these in stereo if you have a larger room, for example. And then on the far right hand side, you have the Bluetooth pairing button. And around back, you've got the USB-C connector for charging or connecting it directly to a laptop. And then on the bottom of the device, you do have a large rubber surface area, so if you're going to be putting this down on pretty much any surface, it's not going to be going anywhere. And then you've also got a place for the USB dongle, so hopefully you're not going to lose it, but do keep in mind it is extremely small. And that's what I actually love about the S500 is the amount of connection options that you've actually got. If you want to be going completely wireless, you've got Bluetooth, you can use the dongle for a slightly stable, better wireless experience, and then you do have the USB-C cable as well if it's going to be more of a standard piece in your desk setup, or if you're going to have it in a conference room more long term. Now on board the S500, you do have voice radar technology. And this basically automatically focuses on voices in a room while also removing some of the background noise. This is a great feature if multiple people are using the device at once. And this is done with a 4-mic array to allow for great sound from the speaker and also into the microphones. Now the mic also has a really awesome setup option as well that you can change within the AnkerWork application for actually increasing the volume of certain voices if they're going to be sat further away. So again, if you do have a larger conference table or you've got multiple people using this connective speaker, then if you're going to have someone stood slightly further away, for example at the back of the room, their voice is still going to be picked up and slightly increased in volume compared to the voices that are going to be closer to the actual device to kind of give everyone the exact same volume in a room, which is a really great feature to have. I'm not a massive fan when you're in a meeting and the guy right next to the speaker is extremely loud, and then someone that may have a really good idea is at the complete back of the room, so to have everyone's voices sounding pretty much the same is a great feature to have. And then you've also got the built-in battery, which is going to be 6,700 milliamp hours, which is good for around 16 hours worth of use. So even if you're using it for maybe a 1 or 2 hour meeting every day of the week, then this has pretty much got you covered. But let's just say that you don't have any meetings that go longer than 16 hours in a week. And then lastly, you have the AnkerWork app, which pairs with the actual speaker itself. Now, in regards to the overall features, there's not necessarily a ton of options that you've got on here. Now, you can go from a standard mode, which is good for all environments, to a broadcast mode, which enhances near-end voice and far voice to slightly even it out a bit. But that's kind of it. This is also where you're going to be able to update the S500 as well, and I've also had 2 software updates since I've had it over the last week, so it's good to see that they're on top of things, added new features, and just in general improving things overall. But the AnkerWork app is a little light on features. Now don't get me wrong, it is built as a conference speaker, but you can also use that as a standard Bluetooth speaker, so having something like EQ settings wouldn't necessarily go amiss if you wanted to add or take away some of the bass options, for example. That would be nice to see maybe in a future update. Now I'm going to save the sound test for a little bit later on in the video because I'm going to be using it in conjunction with the next product, but if you do want to skip to the sound test, then go to this timecode here to see exactly how it sounds. But now though, we have the Powerconf C200 2K webcam. Now, most built-in webcams, especially on Windows devices for whatever reason, are, and let's face it, not actually very good. Most of them don't necessarily have good colours, contrast, overall saturation, and most of them max out at 720p, which in 2022 just isn't necessarily good enough. So in comes the C200. Now this is a 2K webcam with up to a 95-degree field of view, which is really awesome, some great autofocus features, and it comes in at a more reasonable $70, so not necessarily going to break the bank. So first up we have the design, and I love the fact that the C200 is a very understated matte black box that basically just fades into the background. This thing looks extremely stealthy. You have an all matte black design with minimal Anker branding, and just in general the text itself is quite minimal as well, which is something you don't necessarily see. A lot of webcams out there do plaster as much information about the webcam as possible on the actual device itself, whereas this one here, yes, it mentions the resolution and the field of view, but apart from that, that's pretty much it. And that's kind of it for the design. It is a webcam after all. Now around back you do have the USB-C connector, and then you do have the adjustable mount on the bottom, so if you're going to be using it with a super slim device like a laptop screen or a slightly thicker monitor, then it's going to have you covered, or you can also use the thread on the bottom if you want to connect it to a tripod stand. And then we have my favourite part of this webcam, mainly for the colour and the way that it works, and that's the privacy slider. This means that while not in use, you can simply slide the button on the top to show this awesome looking red cover that kind of comes in like a James Bond intro. And this blocks the webcam from a hardware perspective and not just a software side of things, which yes, can be hacked, it may be rare, but to have this actual hardware feature to basically block off anything from being seen through this webcam, again, is a great option to have. So for the internals of the C200, we are going to have a 2K sensor, which basically means that it's going to be a lot clearer than the majority of webcams out there. Now you have super fast autofocus to allow you to show off any important documents or anything that you need to in apparently 0.5 seconds. The unit itself is also very small and light, so taking it into your work bag with the included USB-C cable shouldn't really be too much hassle for anybody. Now sound-wise, you have two mics to allow for stereo sound, so even if you're not pairing it with the S500 conference speaker like I'm going to in a minute, then hopefully you're going to have great overall sound anyway. Also, if you're not a fan of everyone seeing everything that you're going to have in your room with an ultra-wide 95-degree field of view, this can be reduced down to around 70 or also 65 if you do want that tighter field of view, just to allow people not to necessarily see as much of what's going on in the background if you maybe haven't tidied up that day. And then you also have the AnkerWork software, which has way more features than with the S500. With the C200 webcam, you can change everything from the resolution, field of view, brightness, contrast, color, and a ton more. Basically, if you don't like how it looks out of the box, then you can change it and get it exactly looking how you want it to. Now, onto the test. So I'm going to be using the C200 webcam for the next part of the video, along with the S500 in regards to the audio side of things with the microphones. We will then also get onto a sound test of the actual speaker itself, so let's take a look. So this is a full test of everything that's been featured in this video. The audio right now is being done on the S500 conference speaker, and of course the visuals are coming direct from the C200 just on my monitor out of frame. And let's just take a quick look around the software that we get with the S200, just as a test in regards to the visual side of things and also the audio side of things as well. So as you can see, once you're in the actual application itself, you've got a ton of options to go through. You've got resolution, changing it from 360p, which looks a bit like this. You then got 720p, which looks a little bit better, maybe what you're used to on some other webcams. 1080p, which does improve massively, and then up to that 2K option where you can even see some of the individual hairs on my beard and also in my hair as well, and does also have that really fast autofocus. In regards to the framing side of things, this is going to be 65 degrees, you can do 78 degrees and also 95 degrees, where you can basically see everything in my room. You've got my shelf just out here out of shot, the door, you can even see the sofa over to the side here. This is probably one of the widest cameras that I've actually got, including some of my, other sort of DSLR cameras and mirrorless lenses that I've got behind me there as well. But for me, I do actually think, even though it can go up to 95 in regards to the degree side of things, for me, 65 is actually the sweet spot. You've got anti-flicker mode for 50 Hz and 60 Hz as well. And then you do have all of the options in regards to changing some of the things that I mentioned before. So if you want to go ahead and change the brightness and make everything super overblown, you've got the option to do so. But I normally have it around 50 or so, or even maybe slightly above that, about maybe 55 or so. The sharpness I actually do keep at 0, because while you can increase it slightly and it does make it look a little bit better, it can bring in some noise as well. And again, if you do whack all the way up to 100%, then this is what you're going to like. It picks up every flaw on your face. So again, either 0 or maybe around sort of 20%, again, is pretty good. Saturation, I would just leave it at the 50%. I think it actually looks pretty good, but again, you do have the option of increasing it. But again, anything above 50, it goes massive. So again, 50 looks okay, but even up to, say, 60 or 70 or even above there, it doesn't look great. If you do want to have that old filmy time look, then again, you can go black and white if you want to. But again, for me, 50% looks perfectly fine. And then you have the contrast ratio again. So again, decreasing this will basically brighten everything up slightly, bring up those shadows. Whereas if you increase it, you can see the TV, for example, gets extremely dark. You lose some of the details to my right-hand side here as well. So again, for me, keeping it around 50%. You can also flip it as well, because everything is actually mirrored for me in terms of what I'm seeing. So all the comic books here are going to be back to front. You can switch it, go to horizontal, or switch the horizontal flip, and then everything looks fine to me, but then doesn't necessarily kind of match up with my actual movement. So I always keep that on. And then you have these sound options as well. You do have different options here in regards to omnidirectional and also directional. So again, it's giving multiple different options as well. And like I mentioned, everything sound-wise is coming from the S500 just out of shot here. It's about sort of an arm's length away. But again, if you were to move further away or get a little bit closer, sound-wise, I think it actually sounds pretty good overall. And lastly, guys, here we have a full test of the C200. So everything visual-wise and also audio-wise, it's coming direct from the C200 itself. As I mentioned, you do have that dual mic setup, the 2K resolution. So let me know in the comment section down below exactly how you think this looks. And that's going to do it, guys, for this video on how to improve your working from home setup for both video and audio. Now, if you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up down below. And if you guys have not necessarily the best setup at the moment for working from home, let me know exactly what you're using in the comment section down below. It'd be really interesting to see exactly what you guys are using currently. If you're not already subscribed, now's a great time to do so. And once you've hit that subscribe button, don't forget to turn on all notifications so you're notified anytime I post a video here on the channel. I'm Michael from Copper vs Glass. Thanks very much for watching, and I will catch you guys in the next video.